Hi, welcome back. And so we are now in Module 2. And Module 2 is the art of listening or the listening process. So, in communication, a very vital element is the listening process. Because if the receiver did not get what the info source or the speaker is trying to say, then there is a failure in communication. So, what are the processes in listening? Okay, let's begin with the first one. And these processes are actually arranged chronologically. Okay, so let's begin with the first process, and that is receiving. In the process, receiving refers to the response caused by sound waves stimulating the sensory receptors of the ear, and this process is what we call the physical response. Okay, so for example, the moment you hear a sound, and so these sound waves stimulate your sensory receptor or receptors of your ear. So by receiving these sounds, these sound waves, listening process starts. Okay, and again, this is the physical part, the physical response in the listening process. After we have received the sound waves, after our sensory receptors of our ears receive the sound waves, we are now going to have the next step or the next process, and that is attending. So in this stage, in this process, ladies and gentlemen, our brain screens stimuli and permits only a select few to come into focus. This selective perception is known as attention, and this is an important requirement for effective listening. Okay, so the moment we hear the sound waves and it is sent to our sensory receptors of our ears, and now our brain will start screening the stimuli, because we cannot absorb everything that we hear. So our brain will only stimulate a few to come into focus. So the moment it happens, the moment our brain screens these stimuli, attending or attention is taking place. And that's the second stage. The next one is understanding. So, keeping track, we have received the sound waves. Now, our brain screens the stimuli. Then, the next step is understanding. What do you mean by this? So, when we understand, we have seen and heard something. Then we must analyze the meaning of the stimuli we have perceived. Symbolic stimuli are not only words, but also sounds like applause, screeching of tires, or moving of chairs. These are sounds. And so when we hear this, even if we don't see a thing, for example, see this particular event or instance, the moment we hear, for example, a screeching of tires, we know that the car probably, or the driver rather, probably applies sudden brake. And so there's a screeching of sounds, or there's a screeching sounds from the tires. So we understand, okay, we understand the meaning. After we understand, then we of course respond. That's the fourth stage. We respond. So this stage requires that receiver complete the process through verbal and or nonverbal feedback. Okay, for example, we hear the screeching of the tires. So we possibly, and then there's like a big loud sound after the screeching. So we possibly would think that the car or a vehicle bumped into something. So what could be our response? Possible responses. We could possibly run and check, or we can possibly shout for maybe we are surprised, and that's how response is. Okay, this again stage requires that the receiver, meaning the person who receives the sounds, will complete the process by displaying verbal and or nonverbal feedback. Now after we responded, then we remember. That's the last stage. This is an important listening process because it means that an individual has not only received and interpreted, understood a message, but also added this to the mind's storage bank. Okay? So when we are witnessing, or when we see, for example, after we responded to a screeching of tires and a loud noise, we checked and we saw that there was indeed an accident, and this particular event is now part of our memory, our mind's storage bank. And so we remember. That's remembering. The last stage of the process. Questions? Okay, so if there's none, then that's module 2, the listening process, or the art of listening.